A world exists beyond our world, and the whole world was competing to get there. The space race began as the Soviets were the first to put a basketball-sized satellite into space when Sputnik was launched in October 1957. Americans panicked at the thought that the Soviets could be watching us from space. This prompted the U.S. to respond. Listen to this report of the Sputnik launch in English from Radio Moscow.
The first artificial Earth satellite in the world has now been created. This first satellite was today successfully launched in the USSR.
Before the Americans could launch their own satellite, however, the Soviets won the next leg of the race by launching the first living being into space, a dog named Lakeia. Now, unfortunately, the dog would pass away in space, not from the space travel itself, but from dehydration. The U.S. got into the race by launching its first satellite, Explorer 1, in January 1958. To aid the U.S. efforts to keep pace with the Soviets, NASA was formed in 1958 as well. Now, NASA is actually part of the Defense Department. The goal in it was to prevent the Soviets from gaining too much information. We found it a part of national security. Thank goodness for the technological advances in the 1950s. Medicine had huge improvements. Antibiotics and vaccines helped to control diphtheria, influenza, and typhoid fever. In 1953, Dr. Jonas Salk developed a vaccine to prevent poliomyelitis, polio. A nationwide testing of the vaccine was launched in April 1954 with the mass inoculation of school children. The results were amazing, 60 to 70% prevention. So by 1959, 90 other countries were using Salk's vaccine. In fact, to the point that we believe that we have completely eradicated polio. Remember, polio is what ended up taking the life of Franklin Roosevelt. He lived with it for many years. And that was he was Salk's motivation. 1953 proved to be a banner year for scientific breakthroughs as well, when Francis Crick and James Watson discovered DNA, the double helix that is the building blocks of life. On a less than life-threatening note, but seemingly essential, in 1950, Zenith introduced the TV remote. A forerunner of today's electronic units, the original device had wires connecting it to the TV. By 1955, Zenith had removed the wires and made it wireless. Finally, in 1957, Sony, a brand new Japanese company, introduced the first pocket-sized transistor radio to the United States.